My name's Mark Holton, CEO of 2020 Asia Pacific. Welcome to 2020 Communique, the video channel for 2020 Asia Pacific members that will focus on keeping you up to date with business advisory education and value-added service, tools and resources. I'm joined today by Robert Horne of Evolution Business Services. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Mark.
Robert, can you tell me a little bit more about Evolution Business Services?
Evolution Business Management Services was started a few years ago after I'd spent several years in small public practice and consulting services, which is what we provided in that practice. Prior to that, I held several positions in senior management roles in small and medium-sized businesses. So got a bit of a background in both the receiving ends and giving ends of accounting systems and information.
Wonderful. What sort of services does Evolution provide?
Look, Mark, we primarily focus on MYOB consultancy services, but we specialise in add-on solutions as well to work with the MYOB system to solve various issues and problems and increase efficiencies and a lot more better reporting management, of course, for various industries.
Okay. When we talk about MYOB, many accountants are using MYOB or at least facilitating work with clients on MYOB. Do you find that a lot of the MYOB files aren't necessarily set up too well and need a bit of a, like we say, a health check as such?
Well, yes, of course, being an accountant yourself, Mark, and on the receiving end of many clients'
Absolutely.
MYOB data file, it's probably safe to say that as accountants, there's not too many we've seen that have been 100% perfect handed across the desk. So yes, there's a lot of them out there that have a few issues, haven't been set up correctly, and haven't been operated correctly as well.
Okay. Do you think there's a need out there for MYOB data file reviews?
Most definitely, Mark. I mean, that's one area that we actually specialise in Evolution Business Management is data file review services.
Okay.
What that entails is looking at the client's data files and pinpointing where the major critical issues are.
Okay. Now, those major critical issues, if I was to say to you, what were the three things that you generally see when you do these reviews that are, well, they're wrong? They're not, let's be honest, they're wrong.
Well, look, I mean, most small business people, they grab that box off the shelf and they think reading the MYOB marketing materials that it's nice and easy to just whack on your computer and away you go, and it works perfectly. Of course, we know better. Most of those issues start from setup. Incorrect setup is one of the major issues that we find with MYOB data files. The second biggest issue we find is an incorrect accounting structure. So the chart of accounts or the ledger accounts are not structured correctly. They choose the MYOB's nice little option of, hey, let's have one. And of course, we know that's not the most practical, nor does it really conform with Australian accounting standards. The third issue we find is the payroll system. The payroll system, of course, is one of the most difficult to set up because most novice users in small business don't have a good fundamental understanding of the payroll, the current legislations, and of course MYOB don't set that system up to meet the changing legislations that are frequently happening.
So Robert, walk me through what a client would get, as in a 2020 member, if they were to do an MYOB data file review. What's the process and what do they receive?
Well, Mark, our MYOB data file reviews are focused on analysing the client's data file through everything from setup to user operation issues and errors. We pinpoint and highlight those problems. We provide recommended solutions and to rectify those issues, and also a costing for us to undertake those rectifications if the client or the accountant so chooses.
Oh, now I've got it. So do the member firm receive a report?
Yes, they do, Mark. They receive a detailed report of all the findings of the data file review itself, allowing them, if they wish, to go back to the client, undertake those services themselves, or we're more than happy to provide a costing for undertaking that on their behalf.
So essentially they get a report of what's right, what's wrong?
Correct, Mark.
So it's a bit of a health check as such?
That's correct.
And then they can then take that to the client, or you can provide a quotation then to get the thing fixed?
That's correct. And I mean, the whole focus is obviously to try and get their data files as optimum as possible, which in the long run saves them money. I mean, we all know that accountants are pressed for time most usually. They put up with the data file coming back to them year after year with totally incorrect setups or incorrect ledger accounts or total incorrect data input. And of course that's adding cost to the accounting firm, but also to the client if the accountant's trying to rectify that with year-end adjusting journals, etc.
Well, certainly, Robert. I know many of the accountants that I talk to are absolutely livid with the fact that they've got to continually fix the same thing every year. My attitude's pretty simple. I think that's their fault, because I think we've got to start to get out there and educate our clients just that little bit better when it comes to getting the MYOB file right. But one thing that I'd also wanted to ask you is, with my background in Profit Optimizer and the fact that we can now import client data directly into Profit Optimizer from MYOB Accounting, Accounting Plus, or Premier. Does this data file review also involve some sort of restructure of the client's file to make that easier?
Most definitely, Mark. I mean, our data file reviews are very focused on the integration to the profit optimizer system for accountants. The data file review will look at the structure of the ledger accounts to ensure that they will conform with accounting standards and therefore obviously streamline the process into integration with profit optimizer. In that report we'll highlight those changes that need to be made to make that conformity.
Okay, so things like splitting direct and indirect costs will be set up for them?
Correct.
And splitting short-term debt and long-term debt?
Correct, Mark. Most small businesses who've set up those data files themselves have got absolutely no idea, and in most areas, how to particularly set up a balance sheet, which is where most of the problems occur in the balance sheet area.
Gotcha. And the bane of my existence, putting interest in a number 6 account in MYOB as an operating expense. Where should that go?
Most definitely, Mark, that it should be sitting at other expenses. It's not an operating expense. It should not be in the 6 numbered accounts. It should be in the 9s.
And naturally the same with income generated from interest.
Correct, yes.
Geez, that'd be nice if that was done. We'd be able to get the information straight into Profit Optimizer. We'd be able to use it smarter, better, and make more money.
Well, the whole idea is obviously to increase efficiencies in the accounting practices as well. I mean, it's a win-win situation for both client and accounting firms.
That sounds pretty good to me, Robert. So how can 2020 Asia Pacific members access an MYOB data file review through Evolution?
Well, Mark, our data file review services are usually $595 to the client.
Yep.
We're happy to offer it to 2020 members firms at $100 off, so that's $495 per data file review.
So in the case of my firm, Robert, so I've got this right, I pay you $495, you produce a report for me as well as a quotation to get this fixed. I work directly with the client.
That's correct.
And then I can bill that to the client at what, $595, or for that matter, whatever I can believe the value proposition is. That sounds a pretty good deal. So that's $100 off per client.
That's correct, Mark. $100 off per client for 2020 members.
So if I've got 20, 30, 40 clients, that's $100 of somewhat passive income for my practice.
100% correct, Mark.
And the benefit that I'm getting is the file's a lot healthier.
Yes.
Sounds a good deal to me. Robert, so in order to access this information, or in order to look at a little bit more about the services that Evolution offer, can you let our members know your website?
Certainly, Mark. It's our website's www.evolutionbusiness.com.au.
Okay, so www.evolutionbusiness.com.au. Robert, I've really enjoyed this talk today. I really have. And I think you and I need to talk a little bit later about how you can help my practice a little bit more as well.
Certainly, Mark. Thanks very much for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks again. So don't forget, everybody, if you do wish to access the Evolution Business Services MYOB data file review and restructures, then go on to the 2020 Asia Pacific website, www.2020asiapacific.com, and have a look in the approved partner area where there's some information about this particular service and facility. Thanks for being online with us again today, everyone. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.